Yep, I stopped the recording here. All right, excellent. And so welcome everybody, and thank you all for joining me. This is our first meeting in quite a while, and we've got some activities to talk about. Nothing earth-shaking, but just really kind of getting things going for the year. So the first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting, which was back in September. Did everybody have a chance to take a look at those, or if you want a few minutes to just review them? I sent them along with the agenda to this meeting. If we need to, I can share my screen. I can show you a copy if you'd like.
Mark, I read the minutes. They look fine. We'll give everybody else a chance, but I'll certainly make a motion to approve them.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Let's see here. Well, John, did you have a chance to look at them? Did you see anything unusual?
Yeah, it's fine.
Terry?
Yes, I had a chance to read them.
Terry, thank you. Let's see. Mary?
Looks good.
All right. And Dave, who am I missing here?
Catherine.
Catherine.
They look good to me.
Okay, all right, so I guess they're approved as written. If you haven't seen any changes that need to be made, just, editorial changes or grammar, that kind of stuff, so just let me know. Now that I can tweak them. Okay. So the second item on our agenda is committee membership. At the last meeting, or just before last meeting, Tracy resigned from the committee because she needed to focus more of her attention on some other volunteer activities. And at that time, the committee thought it would be good to get someone from the Lake Wyola Association directorship on our committee. And okay, hold on here. And so I contacted the association, and our team volunteered to join our committee. And Art's on right now. He's muted, but he's on. Does everybody know Art?
I don't.
Yeah.
Yes, I know Art very well. Very instrumental in the Lake Wyola road race, and a dedicated volunteer.
Hey, Art, I know you're muted. Can you just say a little brief summary about yourself?
Sorry, I missed that.
Oh, this guy, can you just introduce yourself to the group?
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Art Keene. I live on Lake Drive on Lake Wyola. I've lived at the lake for 14 years. I've been a member of the Association Board of Directors for 8 years. I'm a retired anthropologist from UMass. I am the managing editor of the Amherst Indy, which is an online newspaper. And I'm the co-race director for the Lake Wyola Road Race.
Thank you, Art. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Art? Okay, so I think we should have a quick vote. Could I have a motion to approve Art's membership onto our committee?
I will make that motion to approve Art as a member of the Lake Wyola Association LWAC committee.
I'll second that.
Thank you. And so let's just have a vote. Is there anybody well, let's have a vote, I guess. Catherine?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Eric already voted. and Walter, or Eric, I didn't get Eric.
Yes, for me.
Okay, so I think that's a unanimous vote. So the next thing is it just goes off to the select board. I'll send his name to the select board and they'll assume approve it. And with that, I want to welcome Mark to the committee.
Thank you.
Mark, do you have any questions for the group?
Nope.
Okay. So thank you very much. So the next thing on our agenda is just a discussion about the sort of what was listed here in the minutes as the sub watershed erosion mitigation update. So basically, problems with stormwater around the lake. And there's been two activities this year. One is with the select board, where Dave attended an MVP grant meeting, I think it's what it's called. And then there was some activities with the FERCog that came up. And we started this out last summer. I think we had the idea that we would ask the select board to form a separate committee, a separate town committee to look at this and have their primary function, have that being their primary function. It turned out that the select board wasn't in favor of that idea. And so we started back at square one with some resources to help us out. We had a meeting with the Concom to see if we could form a joint committee with them. And they were too busy to kind of participate, although they offered some help and they sent us along with some material. So then we threw the idea or looked at the possibility of an MVP grant or MVP grant. And Dave attended that meeting. If I could ask Dave to kind of give an update of what happened there.
Good morning, everyone. So yes, I did attend the meeting. It was very interesting. A lot of input, and there was certainly consensus that stormwater mitigation on the dirt roads, not only around Lake Wyola, but other parts of the town, was an area of focus, and it should be an area of focus. So it was a very large document that we started with, and basically I and Michael from the planning board, and I cannot pronounce his last name for the life of me, so I apologize. We went back and forth for a while and basically condensed our thoughts into what is basically the project summary, which I don't know if, Mark, you were able to get a copy of what I had sent you to the rest of the LWAC members, and they've had an opportunity to look at the project summary or not?
I did not. I just clipped the section on just what focused on Lake Wyola.
Okay.
And I sent that along, but I could send that out to everybody at any time.
All right. So I would say, yeah, I'll just get that out to the group so they have so they can read it. It's a really condensed summary to what was a lot of data that got to this. But there is language, in this grant, which is the request is $150,000 regarding the watershed issues on Lake Wyola. Also in this grant was also, we talk a lot about, the problems of running water. But there was also a discussion about the areas of perhaps lack of water and the opposite issue of, heavy storms, but lack of rain and dryness and fires. So there's some language in here regarding, underground storage tanks and water supply for firefighting, which Michael and I thought was quite important. And I know that's kind of off topic for LWAC, but there was a brush fire, I think it was last year, Walter, if you can not correct me, up in the state forest in Leverett, and you could clearly see it, you could clearly smell it. It was alarming, and I think that's something that needed to be into this grant, and that's why that language is in there. So if people have any questions about that. I can certainly take them. But I would say at this point, I would like to have everyone at least get a copy of the document and read it. And if there's any questions, they can ask me. I don't know if this grant has actually been submitted or requested yet. I believe it was. I actually just got a copy of the finalized from Becky this past week. So that's what I have on that right now. And I'd be perfectly willing to take questions if anyone has them.
Open the floor to any questions?
I'm hearing none.
Okay, so that sounds good. That's a potential avenue for some resources, some funding resources. Again, so, at the initial phase, my intention, or my goal is to try to get funding to do to develop a plan so that we can get it, so it could be gradually implemented or implemented at once, but some direction, a coordinated direction that we and then the town could move ahead together.
I think, Mark, what I liked about this is that there was definitely an understanding that this is an issue, and we've always had an understanding this is an issue. The problem is there's been no action. To me, this is actual concrete movement on it. We're applying for a grant, and it's addressing the issues that we're concerned about. $150,000 isn't going to cover all the problems, but it's a beginning and it's a step, and it's something that we can build off of. I think it's not the complete solution. It's a stepping stone in the right direction.
Excellent, David. Appreciate your joining that group and participating and writing this up.
Eric?
Is there still a question about the whole Lake Wyola road ownership versus the town road ownership, and will that be a problem with getting this money?
I think that's yet to be solved. I think the consensus was, regardless of the opinions on that, which I think that's what they are at this point, they felt like something has to be done about it, because in the end, it's the lake.
Right.
That's the issue, right?
Yeah.
And regardless of, we can debate the whole thing or not, Eric, but regardless of it, that is the crux of the and there's other issues with dirt roads, whether they're private or not, around town, and that was brought to light at the
Definitely.
and it was very interesting. There was almost empathy for the situation at the lake, which I was frankly surprised to hear. So it was a very interesting meeting. And if anybody, I know they record these, if anybody has an opportunity to go back and watch that, I think you should. Just for the record too, I have requested on now 3 occasions a copy of the engineering study that was done for the installation of 5 culverts that were put in place Wendell Road. I have not gotten that yet. And, obviously I want to see that for several reasons. What the thought process was really behind those culverts and how that whole project came about. It certainly could help us, guide us in the future. And, also, I'm of the opinion that those culverts are presenting a problem for the private roads of the lake. So
Right.
That's another reason why I want to look at it. But that's a story for another day. And I'll continue to ask that. I don't know if it even exists still, but it should be public record.
I'll call that number, put my mask on.
Yeah, David, I know there was, I don't know about all the other ones. If the one that crosses below Ames Haven, there was definitely an engineering study in that. And Tim might even have a copy of that if you can't get it from Town Hall.
All right, so I'll contact Tim for that. I think at the very least it would make for a good read. Thank you.
I know, I'm shocked.
Okay.
Another thing about that whole study, I wasn't at that last meeting that you were at, David, but that was a culmination of, many different meetings, and there was two different plans that basically worked together to culminate all of that. And that was generally looking at the entire town, not just one little section, or dividing into what's private and what's not. It was a study done for the entire town, looking at climate change and how it's going to affect, or could possibly affect, the future. So yeah, there was nothing separating out private or town owned or anything like that. It was just as a whole, which is why it was probably, it was better that it just looked at everything that way. No politics involved in that part.
Absolutely. And that's exactly how it unfolded.
Okay, great. So I will send out a copy of that, which Dave sent to me. I'll send it out to everyone for your review. I think we're all set there. Any other comments about the MVP group? Okay, so next item there is the activity with FERCOG, or the Franklin County Regional Government. This was kind of a surprise to me. This started up last fall, what happened is that FERCOG had received grant money to apply for funding through various organizations to look for watershed protection. And so they contacted me, and I told them about all the problems that we're having around the lake. And so they decided to use Lake Wyola as one of their projects. And not because Wyola has any real problems, but because it's in good shape. And the intention is to look for funding to keep it in good shape. So Eric and I met with two representatives from FERCOG, Hampton Flanders and Allison Gage. I think it was January 28th, I think it was. And we walked around the whole lake, and we looked at all the issues of stormwater runoff on the three sides of the lake. And we also talked about the North Cove and how that was filling in. And so we gave them sort of the full dose of what our problems are. They took a lot of notes, took a lot of pictures. After that meeting, I sent them E. coli data for the past 10 years or so, and I sent them phosphorus data that some Bill Elliott had recorded, and some that UMass had done for us back in, I think it was 2014 or so. So we sent them a lot of information, and they're putting it all together and applying for a 319 grant. This is no guarantee we're going to get this grant money, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. Their current plan is to get the initial draft ready in a couple of weeks, and they will send it out to us, or to me, and I'll forward it to everyone for your review. I'll also forward it to the other people around the lake, like the Lake Wyola Directors Association, to kind of get the community's input on what else we can add. Get everyone's thoughts on the subject. So that's from my perspective, very exciting that at the very least, we'll have an application that we could use for to apply for other grants. Eric, can I ask you to jump in if you have anything? Is there anything else I missed from our discussions with them?
Sure. No, I think you articulated it pretty well, and I was impressed too that they seemed pretty interested. So hopefully they get grant money to do something, and yeah, it's very a step that's potentially in the very good direction, I think.
Any comments or questions from the group?
Thank you for taking the time to do that, Mark.
It's my pleasure. All right, so, like I said, when I get information from them, I'll pass it on to the group. I won't wait for the next meeting. I'll just pass it on as soon as I get it and see where it all goes. But these are, from my perspective, these are two very positive developments. But we can get some, money. Really, the solution comes down to getting money to define the project and find what needs to be done. Any other comments on water, on erosion and watershed protection? Okay, so the next item on our committee is an update on the Randall Road boat ramp project and the land management agreement. Back in the fall, Eric and I did meet with Miriam from Concom and Dave Cameron, I think Mr. Cameron from the Office of Voting Access. I'm not sure the exact name here, but the idea was to that they were going to come up with a basic design. Excuse me, go on. So the idea was that they were going to come up with a basic design of what they were supposed to do, and send it around to everybody. But it turns out there's some problems between how the land was acquired, and it's currently under control of the Conservation Commission. But basically, it looks like at this point it's going to be too complicated to get all the permissions in place to do anything at the boat ramp. And so that project is kind of put on hold indefinitely. Any comments or questions on that?
Other than it's disappointing that it's not going to be able to go forward, because it looks like a good project for the lake and protection of it and access and all that. So
I think there might have been some political issues going on too at the same time that preventing us from enthusiastically being supported by the town. So, given all the headwinds, it's not really worth pursuing at this time, I think.
Yeah, my sense is there was a real sense of like whether or not this was the town's bailiwick or conservation committee, and it was all this, it was getting kind of that. Yeah, it was tangled up, I would say.
Mark, this is Terry Smith. I've abstained from this because of my involvement with work and some of the folks that I've served on the committee with for the past 12 years or so. This was brought forward by the town itself about 12 years ago. The majority of facilities that are under agreements with fishing and boating access actually are on Article 97 land. In fact, the facility that the town has right now is on Article 97 land. So there was no Article 97 land actually involves like development of conservation lands. So there was really no change to the access conditions that are there. Unfortunately, now the town will be left with the responsibilities for the repairs because the facility's degraded now, at least since it was brought to the attention by the former Board of Selectmen members who had served on the committee and had brought it forward to Becky's predecessor in Town Hall, I think around 2009 or so. So it's unfortunate that we're, it's in this direction, but it's, again, I've always abstained on this because of my work, but I just wanted to point out that, the Article 97 basis is not really something that's, unique to Shutesbury, or that a facility is on, recreational type facility like this. Because I think if people researched it, they'd find that the Article 97 lands are also involved with everything that's done at the state park facility on the other side of the lake. So, but I appreciate everyone's time, and I guess maybe this will be revisited at some point in the future by the town when the boat ramp needs to be repaired because of its, just continuous deteriorating state. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. And we do appreciate your guidance on this too, and the paperwork that you provided in support of it. Okay. Next item on our agenda is the Lock Pond Road culvert replacement and the fall dam inspection. First, I'll ask Walter, did you get anything on regarding the dam inspection?
Okay, as usual, Morris being Morris and what goes on in his life. We haven't seen the actual report yet. I take the opportunity to contact him on Thursday to touch base with him on where we are with that. He is saying 6 weeks out. I won't hold my breath. I like Morris a lot, but he's on time with his reports. The basic crux of it is nothing's really changed. It's still a few things that were identified before that need to be addressed. Some of the mortaring around the rocks in the spillway, which, talking with him, he says, we can do. Either you can go out to bid and, spend tens of thousands of dollars to have somebody else go and do it, or you can go down to the local Home Depot and pick out a good mortar mix and mix it up and do it ourselves. There's really no difference in that, other than we'll save a lot of money by doing it. The issue with the outflow pipe, with it leaking around there because, it was never really mortared properly. In monitoring it, yes, the leakage has been worse than it was before, but the fact that no sand or sediment is coming through, it's just pure water. Basically, it's water leaking around the plastic pipe that was inserted into the sluiceway, and it just leaking between the old stone culvert, if you will, or stone sluiceway, and the plastic one. There does not seem to be any evidence of deterioration of any of the structure around that. So he's not so concerned with that. It's more of a aesthetic thing than anything else, and a structural. And then it's just still the seepage weir. And those are still the three things that we had identified before. I'd say the only thing that's, around the sluiceway, it's gotten a little bit worse, the leakage, and some of the mortar is broken away in like the top of the dam and all that, which just means we really should get on it this spring and fix that. The only thing that's changed that he wanted to note was that Office of Dam Safety has sent out a new format for the inspection reports. And what one now includes that they never did before is they're asking the engineers or the inspectors to also section where they include what they can visually see as potential hazards in the area of the dam, which was never really part of the dam inspection before, which means it requires, we've had a lot of discussion with the town and neighbors in the past few years about the fact that, more people are using the dam as a recreational facility, and little kids around and worries about people falling off the backside of the dam. And now he's required to mention that as a potential hazard. Whether that doesn't affect the structure of the dam or its integrity, it's just some of the things that they want to know, around the dam. So he says, unfortunately, he's going to have to add some kind of blurb to the fact that, yes, he can visually see that it's a 10-foot drop off the backside of the dam, and that's a potential hazard. That's about the only thing that he'd have to include new.
Okay, thank you, Walter. Any questions for Walter? Walter, is there anything this committee needs to do with regard to the dam at this point?
I don't think so at this point. I really would like to see, however we get it done, as soon as the weather warms up a bit, even if it's, I have to do it with somebody or even somebody from the highway department, is, get a few 5-gallon buckets of mortar pre-mixed stuff, mix it up, and, just get out there and fill some of those cracks up that are developing, which a lot of it is more potentially is to any water runoff or that to divert it from going down in between the stones, but off to over the top and out. In the actual spillway itself, he said he would suggest using, and I've got to talk to him more on that, see if I can pin him down on a specific product, but in between some of the cement and the stones that are actually in the spillway, where the mortar is separated out and allowing water to run down in the spillway, it should be something that's more of an elastic type of mortar or fill or something like that that will expand and contract a little bit more and stay in place. So only the mortar is something that we can handle ourselves for the cost of just the materials and a little bit of time to get out there. And I think I'd really like to put a push on this spring. I'm out of here that we get that done.
I would certainly help you with that. That sounds fun.
Yeah, it's almost like, a good day project to get out there and work out in the sunshine and the warmth and fix it up and make it look better.
Just pick a
Play
day.
with mud.
Yeah, just pick a day, Walt, the date that you want to do it. Give us a few days notice and we can get a bunch of volunteers to do that.
All right. Sounds good.
Excellent. Any other comments on that?
Well, I just curious, Walter, do you think the state would actually want, because this dangerous drop off is now going to be in this report, they're going to want some sort of mitigation at some point, or is this just paper?
I'm really not sure, and Morris wasn't quite sure either. This is something the first time that he's ever seen this. They just put it in. Like they said, just recently they sent out this new template that they want to see this stuff. And I know we talked about it as a town a few years ago, and it's kind of a catch-22. If you put a fence on the backside to keep people from falling off, not only is it, going to be kind of difficult because it's a stone, most of it is stone on that side to properly secure it. But once you put a fence stable enough to keep people from falling off, it now be something that could, the dam was designed to have water overflow the dam in case of like 100-year flood. And now by having something there that's going to catch debris, then it becomes liability in that it becomes part of a dam then and blocks up more water and potentially has the property to cause more damage in a 100-year flood. Then it was like, well, somebody said, well, why don't you make it a fence that's a breakaway fence? Well, that's even more liability, because if you have a fence or a railing and people tend to believe the railing is there because it's supportive and they lean against it and it breaks away, now you're creating an attractive nuisance on liability. We've talked with town council about this. We made up some signs basically saying there's a couple that say it's a fall hazard, caution fall hazard. A couple of the ones use this area at your own risk. And truly the only way to clear us from total liability would be to fence the the area completely off and not allow anybody to go there. That's not something that anybody really wants to do, because a lot of people dam, and it's and nobody wants to have the sight of chain link fences around and signs all over the place saying keep out. So it's one of those catch-22s of what do we do to cover ourselves, and can we cover ourselves? without, you know, losing the whole feeling of, you know, the community and the lake and the natural beauty of it, and, you know, putting a chain link fence in the middle of all of it. So I don't know. I'm sure once this goes in the report, we may have to just look at it again and talk to town council again and see how they feel about it. It's always been kind of like, well, yeah, I don't want to say don't ask, don't tell, but, you know, the more you try to fix it, the worse it could be.
All right. I mean, it is a catch-22 because that dam in the summertime is used every day.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Filled with people every day. And
Yep.
and yet if something should happen, it's on our dime, you know? So.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Walter.
You're welcome.
Do you know, Walter, if the do not, do not trespass, or not, I shouldn't say that, but use at your own risk. Do you know if those things, does that kind of sign absolve the town from guilt, from liability, or no? That's a question, I think.
That's something you'd have to ask town council. Again, Donna was really, there was no clear-cut answer to that. We felt that at least it's alerting people to the fact that, you know, this is a place that's not necessarily safe, without, you know, putting keep out, do not trespass signs. People just ignore those anyways. You know, like I said, other than putting a fence, you know, 8-foot high chain link fence around the whole thing, including in the water, because people move their boats up and get, you know, they come up with boats and come on shore there. Not as much as people come from the land, but it would be, and then it's just, you know, it's an eyesore at that point. So I think that was our best bet, to try to, if not, it won't alleviate us from anything, but at least it's something saying, hey, and then somebody was saying, well, now you're acknowledging, you know, that there's a problem. So, you know, I don't know. That's up to the lawyers to figure out, unfortunately. And if we live in such a litigious society, that I don't think there's any way we can totally protect it anyways.
I mean, could we simply post it and,
Do it,
you know,
fix it. Got it. Get rid of it.
How do you get rid of it?
You don't want to.
all right, could we simply post it and
Let me look at this.
we give them tickets and throw them off? Is there, did that put some pressure on the police department, and is that a
That should be
problem?
right.
Celeste, or the person that's named Celeste, you're unmuted. Yeah, Dave, I don't know if it would put a lot more on the police department. That would be, you know, going down there. And because like I say, in the summertime, it's used a lot. I mean, sometimes there's 15 people out there. It would be a constant battle. You'd almost have to place a police officer down there, you know, on day, just to keep people off the dam. So I don't know if that's I mean, you could post it, but then if we don't do anything, again, we're admitting that, all right, we're posting it, but we're not doing anything about it. It's, like I said, I'm not the lawyers to figure that out. I wouldn't even want to try to go there, but yeah, anything we can do to try to eliminate, you know, more of our liability, yet keep it, you know, the nature of the lake, is, at least it's going in the right step.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody have an update on the culvert replacement project? When that's going to start?
I believe that cannot happen until low flow conditions. So again, next fall, not during the spring. Actually, I was talking with Howie about this the other day too. And what I've gotten from Becky, and Eric, you probably know more about this than I do at this point, is that if we didn't make it by the deadline to start, you know, last fall, which we did not, because National Grid and Verizon couldn't get the engineering together to move that pole, which was critical in starting the construction, that it would be put off till probably going to be this fall when there's a low water flow situation again.
That's my sense of it. I'm not sure whether National Grid and or Verizon have done that engineering study yet. I kind of think I heard they didn't, right?
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't get it in time to move the pole in time to start the construction. That's for sure.
No, I know that.
Sure, now they figure, well, we've got plenty of time. We don't have to jump on that. But, you know, it is kind of, it's a critical part. And for whatever reason, they're not too motivated to get it done.
Yeah, I'll try to check in with Becky on it because she sort of knows what the status is of that whole thing. And I'll try to check in, and next time we meet, I hopefully will have an answer a little bit about that.
I mean, they will have all spring and all summer to get it done. Hopefully, you know, get that pole moved. And then when we get to the proper season for doing the work, I mean, it was delayed because they couldn't get some of the materials, and it was delayed because they didn't move the pole. And, you know, hopefully they've got a whole nother year to get their stuff together and hopefully get it done on time this time. Because each year goes by, that culvert's getting in worse and worse condition.
True.
Okay, thank you very much. Or any other questions on the culvert or comments from anybody? Okay, we're getting near the end of the agenda. I had one item to add, and that was applying for the just goose management this year. I'll apply, if they're okay with everybody, I'll apply for our goose egg addling permit again, and make sure I think Fran and Nick usually were the ones who go out and look for and search for goose eggs, and make sure they're still on board. And if they are, I'll apply for that. Catherine's help, she signs off on it from the Board of Health perspective. There was also, I attended a meeting that Becky had organized, a board meeting, where the select board, Becky had sent draft a letter, and we sent it out to the Department of Agriculture in Hadley to make sure that they don't come out and do any geese culling or any shooting of geese this year without first discussing it with the town and getting more involvement and more community participation. I'll try to get a copy of that letter if I can, and if everybody likes, I can add it to the minutes of this meeting. Any other comments on that, Eric? Did anything change from that meeting that we had, that select board meeting? Do you know if that letter ever got sent out?
I believe it did. I signed so many things, it's hard to remember. I believe we signed that, the select board did, and sent. I believe it should have been sent out. That's my sense of it.
Okay. Any other any comments on geese management?
I was wondering, Mark or Eric, if that is going to be the extent of our response to that culling, these various culling incidents that have happened over the past.
You mean the culling incidents, or the incidences of actual killing, shooting geese? Those are,
well, that's what culling is, and
right.
Right, and
oh, I'm sorry, culling as opposed to addling. You're right. Yeah. Okay.
Right, and one of the members of that team actually brought, as I understand it, brought the USDA in to do that without proper authorization from the town. Is this letter meant to put that to rest, and we now forget that happened?
My sense is yes, in the sense that, like, what are you going to do? It has happened, but certainly to prevent it from happening in the future, that's my recollection. which isn't 100% clear, but I think that's right.
Okay,
I think the intent of the letter was to get a meeting together with town officials.
Yes.
And the Department of Agriculture, so to kind of make a plan for the future. And so
Yes,
everyone's
that's
on the same
correct.
page.
okay,
If that meeting happens, I would imagine it's going to be an open meeting, and or at least I'll push for that. And maybe we can get others on the committee to participate.
Well, I'll ask Becky for a copy of that letter too, and when I'm asking her about the culvert thing, but I'm sure there's a copy of it available that we can share around.
Thank you very much, Art. That concludes the list of the agenda items that I had. Is there any other agenda items that someone would like to raise?
Yeah, just one thing I'll add with my conversation with Morris is that I did inform him that this spring, we attempted to do some modifications of the trash rack this fall when I was down there diving, but it's pretty hard to do some of those things underwater. What I told him is this spring, we're going to actually remove the trash rack, bring it up and modify the spacing to try to alleviate it plugging up every fall or multiple times during the fall. We did pretty good this year. I only had to go clean it out once, but it was after one of the big storms that took all the leaves down all at once and ended up plugging up the gate pretty good. Unfortunately, it was quite cold at that point. So our goal is to try to get it so we don't have to do this all the time. And the only way we can look at it is to increase the spacing. So we did talk about the maximum spacing that it should be. So he said there should be no space bigger from edge to edge of any of the uprights more than 4 inches. So if that means we're looking at cutting out every other bar, but we may have to cut them out and re-weld them in place just to get the spacing correct. And if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. We can do that. We'll pull it out and do the modifications and put it back in. So hopefully that will alleviate that in the future. And he was good with that.
Great, thank you. Appreciate all the work you do there. Any other agenda items? Any projects that I'm forgetting about that we usually take care of in the spring and summer? Okay. Sounds like that we've covered all of our agenda items. And so if there's nothing else, if no one else has any other comments, I want to welcome Art to the committee. And I'll draft the minutes of this meeting and get them out to everyone for comments. And we'll meet the next, hopefully next month, March 19th. Would be our next scheduled meeting.
Thanks, Mark. Glad to have you back.
It's good to be back, sort of.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
I had a
Thank you.
good vacation. Thank you all. And with that, I'm going to close the meeting.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.